Most people think small habits are about discipline. They're not. They're about prediction. Your brain is constantly building a model of you, not from what you say, not from what you intend, from what you repeat. And the smaller the behavior, the less resistance it faces, which means the more reliable the data becomes. That's why tiny habits are so dangerous. Not because they're hard, but because they quietly become truth. And once something becomes truth in your brain, it stops asking for permission. It just runs. So the real question isn't, what should I do? It's, what is my brain learning from me every day? This is the advanced version of 8 tiny habits that make a massive difference. Not just what to do, but how they reprogram the system that decides who you are. 1. Making your bed immediately after waking up. Identity priming through low-friction completions. This isn't about productivity. It's about winning your first negotiation. Because every morning starts with a silent question. Do we act or do we delay? Most people lose that moment without noticing. They hesitate, scroll, sit, drift, and their brain logs it. Delay becomes the default. But when you complete a task within the first minute, your brain records something different. No negotiation, we move. And that one decision echoes, not because the task matters, but because the pattern repeats. 2. Drinking water before anything else. Reward hierarchy recalibration. The first thing most people consume isn't water, it's stimulation. And that sets a rule. Before we do anything, we get rewarded. That's why starting feels hard, because your brain is waiting. Water breaks that loop. It gives you nothing exciting. No dopamine spike. No distraction. Just function. And that's the shift. Because now your brain learns, we don't need a reward to begin. And once that belief installs, starting stops feeling heavy. 3. Pausing for 5 seconds before reacting, interrupting automatic prediction loops. Your reactions feel like choices. They're not. They're predictions firing too fast to question. That's why you sometimes hear yourself speak and think, why did I say that? The pause interrupts that chain, not by force, by delay. And that delay creates something rare. Space. Space where your higher thinking can catch up. Do this enough and your brain rewrites the rule. We don't react instantly, we decide. And that shift changes more than behavior. It changes who you are in moments that matter. 4. Stepping outside for natural light within the first hour. Circadian anchoring and hormonal timing. This isn't a habit. It's a signal. Your brain runs on timing, not intention, and morning light is one of the strongest signals you can send. Without it, your system drifts. Energy feels inconsistent. Focus feels delayed. Sleep feels off. Nothing breaks, but nothing fully aligns either. With it, everything sinks quietly in the background. You're not fixing your day. You're aligning the system that controls it. 5. Writing one sentence at the end of your day. Attention training and meaning compression. Most people experience their day. Very few process it, so nothing sticks. One sentence changes that. It forces your brain to answer a simple question. What actually mattered? And once your brain gets used to answering that, it starts looking for meaning in real time. You don't just remember better. You start living with more precision. 6. Doing one task without distraction. Rebuilding attentional endurance. Distraction isn't the enemy. Avoidance is. Every time you switch, your brain learns. When this gets uncomfortable, we escape. And that becomes automatic. But when you stay just once a day, you install a new rule. When this gets uncomfortable, we continue. That's how focus is built. Not by forcing intensity, but by increasing your tolerance to stay. 7. Resetting one small space before you stop working. Cognitive closure and reduced mental residue. Your brain keeps track of unfinished things. Not loudly, but constantly. And that quiet tracking drains you. A messy space isn't just physical, it's cognitive. It tells your brain, this isn't done. But a small reset flips that signal. This is complete. And your brain lets go. That's why the next day feels clearer. Not because there's less to do, but because there's less pulling at your attention. 8. Keeping one promise to yourself daily, self-trust construction through evidence. Confidence isn't built the way people think. It's not built from big wins, it's built from consistent proof. Every time you break a promise to yourself, your brain records unreliable. Not emotionally, logically, but one kept promise a day changes the data. Clean, simple, repeatable. And over time, your brain updates the model. This is someone we can trust. And once that belief locks in, everything changes. Effort feels different. Risk feels different. Goals feel different. Here's what most people never realize. Your life doesn't change when you do something big. It changes when your brain stops seeing a behavior as optional. And that only happens through repetition that feels almost invisible. No pressure, no intensity, no noise, just patterns. Quiet, repeated patterns. And once those patterns solidify, you don't need discipline. You don't need motivation. Because at that point, your brain isn't asking anymore. It already knows who you are, and you're just acting accordingly.